Dear pirates, there's a human on this ship. For your safety, kindly pick A. Beginning. A warning in the void. The first warning came not from a gun turret or a shield array, but from a line of text projected in shimmering white against the blackness of the void. The pirate vessel's serrated maw slowed its advance as the words materialized across its forward scanners, stitched in bold glyphs by the battered freighter ahead of them. Dear pirates, there's a human on this ship. For your safety, kindly pick another target. Captain Durizith of the serrated maw squinted his four luminous eyes, mandibles twitching in disbelief. The freighter was rusting, outdated, crawling at a snail's pace across the borders of the Trell Dominion's outer ring. No escorts, no allies, no advanced weapon systems. And yet, such an audacious message. His crew erupted in guttural laughter. The deck trembled as scaled fists slammed on metal tables. A warning from a praised ship? His first mate Focris, tail flicking. Do they think we'll run just because they have one human aboard? The laughter subsided. Uneasy glances spread through the chamber. For Durizith knew, every pirate in the outer rings knew, that humans were not creatures to underestimate. They were fragile by all physical metrics, soft-skinned, hollow-boned, requiring food and water with alarming regularity. Yet the annals of interstellar conflict spoke of them with a fear bordering on reverence. Humans had a way of turning hopeless battles into nightmares, clawing victory from the ashes with unpredictable savagery no tactical AI could predict. Still, the serrated maw had tasted blood across 50 systems. They were not about to retreat from one broken freighter. Lock on, Durizith snarled. If this human thinks they can frighten us, let's peel them from their ship's hull like a snail from shell. Middle, the human revealed. The serrated maw latched onto the freighter with magnetic claws, tearing into the hull like a predator with hooked talons. Air hissed out into the void. Pressure alarms shrieked, but the freighter didn't self-destruct, didn't even try evasive maneuvers. It waited. The boarding crew forced entry, slicing through a decompression hatch, weapons raised and plasma cannons humming. The corridors beyond were dim, lined with flickering lights, shadows stretching long. The smell was metallic, faintly sweet, like blood baked into steel. Move slow, Focris growled, nervousness creeping into his voice despite himself. Find the crew. Kill the human first. They moved deeper. The ship was mostly empty. Storage bays filled with crates of processed minerals, low-grade fuel cells, nothing worth risking pirate lives over. And then, a figure stepped out from the gloom. At first glance, it seemed almost harmless. A biped, tall but lean, with tired eyes and a beard that looked like it hadn't seen scissors in months. He wore no armor, no visible weaponry. His hands were empty. He could have been a simple engineer stranded in space. But he smiled, and the pirates froze. Hello, the human said softly, voice rasping with exhaustion. I asked you to pick another ship. Something about that calm tone unsettled the boarding party more than any drawn blade. Durizith himself stepped forward, mandibles flaring in defiance. You are outnumbered, human. Stand down, and perhaps we will spare you. The man's eyes narrowed just slightly. Outnumbered? He tilted his head, almost curious. Tell me, how many of you think numbers matter when death doesn't frighten the other side? Before the pirates could react, the human lunged, not with a plasma rifle, not with a hidden blade. He hurled himself barehanded into the nearest pirate, a blur of feral momentum. The crack of bone echoed as he twisted the alien's arm and slammed its head into the wall with enough force to dent metal. The corridor erupted into chaos. Blaster fire streaked, searing the walls. But the human was no longer where the guns aimed. He moved with the predator's rhythm, ducking low, using the pirate's bulk against them, wrenching plasma rifles away and firing them point blank. He screamed as he fought, not in fear, but in something primal, cathartic, terrifying. The serrated maw's crew had faced mercenaries, cyborgs, even Dominion elites. But they had never faced this. A human who fought as if pain was irrelevant, as if survival was an afterthought, as if the only thing that mattered was dragging his enemies into the grave with him. When the corridor went silent, 9 pirates lay broken on the floor. The human stood in the middle of them, chest heaving, face splattered with alien ichor. He dropped a rifle he'd torn from their hands and looked up slowly. His gaze burned. Take me to your captain. Escalation. Stories of humans. They shackled him, of course. Cautiously, with plasma restraints designed to contain wild beasts. DRAs studied him on the command deck, mandibles clicking nervously despite himself. "What are you?" DRAs demanded. The man chuckled, bitter. "Just human." The crew murmured uneasily. They had all heard the tales of humans burning their own ships just to deny an enemy a victory, of humans surviving conditions that would liquefy most species, of humans who treated war not as tragedy but as opportunity. DR's pride war with his instinct for survival. If he killed this one, would his crew mutiny out of fear? If he released him, would they call him weak? "Why is a human on a freighter this deep in Dominion space?" the captain pressed. The human's smile faded. "Because I was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of running. They gave me one quiet job, hauling or across empty systems. I warned you not to come." The words carried no boast. They were weary, almost mournful, and yet they chilled DRAs more than any threat could have. Middle climax. The rebellion. The pirates debated whether to execute the human outright. But as they argued, alarms flared across the serrated maw systems. Hull breaches. Engine failures. Fires breaking out in engineering. "How?" DRAs roared. "We're under attack?" The human looked almost apologetic. "Your boarding party left me enough time." And then they realized. When he was captured, he had allowed himself to be captured. He had wanted to be brought aboard. And while they dragged him in chains, the fail-safe implants in his blood, human military tech, had activated. Tiny machines dormant until triggered had slipped through the boarding corridor and into the maw systems like a virus, rewriting codes, sabotaging fail-safes. The serrated maw was now a coffin. Lights flickered. Oxygen recyclers faltered. Cannons turned inward. The pirates panicked. And panic, in a crew that thrived on bloodlust, turned swiftly into collapse. Some tried to flee to escape pods. Others turned on one another, screaming accusations. The human only sat quietly in his restraints, watching with haunted eyes as chaos bloomed. DRAs staggered toward him, mandibles trembling. What do you want?" The human's voice was soft. "I want to be left alone, but you couldn't give me that." Ending the last message. Hours later, another freighter passing through the sector picked up a distress signal. It was not from serrated maw. The pirate ship was found drifting, engines destroyed, hull pockmarked with self-inflicted cannon fire. No life signs registered aboard. The distress beacon came instead from the ore freighter, patched directly into its outer hull projectors. The same words burned across the void, repeated endlessly. "Dear pirates, there's a human on this ship. For your safety, kindly pick another target." When the rescuers boarded, they found the freighter eerily silent, cargo intact, systems operational. And in the captain's chair, the human sat slumped forward, eyes closed, body limp, restraint still scarred into his wrists. Dead. Exhaustion, perhaps, or the toll of his nanotech overrides. But his warning remained, shining across the void like scripture. And soon, word spread across the outer rings. Pirates whispered the ghostly freighter with the human aboard. Some swore his spirit lingered, waiting for the next boarding crew to ignore the warning. And so, over time, the freighter became legend. No pirate dared approach it. Entire raiding parties changed course at the sight of its transponder, because somewhere in the cold dark, they knew one truth above all others. A human alone was never truly outnumbered.